Okay, good morning to everybody. I think everyone has, it looks like everyone's joined us now that was in the waiting room. So hello and welcome again to the second session in our Festival of Computing on the secondary track this morning. The Festival of Computing is a unique collaboration between Plymouth University and Computing at School. And in this session, we'll find out about CAS Communities, Neon Engineering and the National Museum of Computing. My name is Suzanne Cray and I'm one of the outreach managers for Computing at School covering the Southwest region. I'll be your host for this session. Today I'm accompanied by Sophie, a student ambassador from Plymouth University, who's moderating the session and monitoring the question window. We're joined today by Dan Powell from Neon Engineering and Anne-Marie Langford from the National Museum of Computing. I'll tell you more about our speakers when we get started. But before we do, just a couple of things I wanted to say. In terms of housekeeping during the session, please use the chat window, which is usually on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. You might need to click on the chat icon to open it. Our student ambassador will be making a note of questions posed there, and these will be answered if time allows after each presenter. As a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode. A copy of today's slides will be available to download from the CAS website, either at the end of today or early next week. Finally, the hashtag for this event is hashtag CASPLIM21, which I'll pop in the chat. Please do tweet about the sessions you're attending through the day. So the first little talk I'm going to give to you today, I'm going to talk to you about CAS Communities. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, and if one of Sophie, if you could just confirm you can see that screen okay. Should say
yes, I can see it fine, thanks.
Fabulous. Okay. Okay, so what is Computing at School? So I'm just going to talk to you about the communities that we support and the role of Computing at School. So first of all, my name, as I said, was Suzanne Cray. I'm a former assistant head teacher for a secondary school in Dorset. I have taught IT and maths, and nowadays I'm self-employed and I'm a trainer, IT trainer, and as well as this role, I'm also an EdTech consultant. My role for Computing at School is I'm the community outreach manager for the Southwest region. Just so that you're aware, BCS work in partnership with STEM and Raspberry Pi to form the NCCE, and Computing at School is part of that partnership too. So in my role, I manage communities of teachers across Wiltshire, Dorset, Somerset, Devon and Cornwall, so all of that southwest corner of the UK. I also lead webinars and organise webinars such as this one, and regional conferences such as this one. My contact details are at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see them again at the end of my presentation too. As you can see, we're on social media, Twitter, Instagram. So communities of practice allow teachers of computing to share best practice, get ideas and inspiration and support each other. We've currently got around 330 local communities across the UK and 38,000 registered members on the Computing at School website. Communities meet at least once per term and usually sort of based in a school, and certainly pre-COVID used to meet in a school, often after school, but nowadays meet online. So here teachers meet, talk, exchange ideas, best practice and resources. We also often focus on a specific topic and often get speakers in as well to help support, such as in a way like we have today. So this is just a quick screenshot of an online meeting that's been happening recently. So that might be on Zoom like today, or Teams or Google Meet. So yeah, it used to be face-to-face with biscuits as well, but now no biscuits, I'm afraid, just your own, and we just meet virtually. but they've been supported really, really well during the last year. Once registered on the Computing at School website, you can search for your nearest community and join it. And you can join more than one community as well. So if you've got a few in your local area, you can join them, or actually you can join communities anywhere. And just by joining a community means that you'll be notified of CAS events happening in your area, and of course build your local network and get to know some of your colleagues locally. CAS holds regular webinars, most of which are recorded, and you can find the recordings on the website. So there's just an example of our CAS Inspire sessions, which ran over a few months for primary and secondary teachers. But we also run separate events as well. So we had the autumn event in the autumn and the virtual event in the summer. And for those, we get keynote speakers in and speakers from various computing related companies, organisations. On the website, there are loads and loads of resources that are shared by people such as yourselves. So there's a forum where you can have discussions, which you'll see on the left-hand side here, and also resources that are shared. This is really, I think, what makes Computing at School work so well, and it allows that collaboration and that sharing of what works well and best practice. And you will see the upcoming events as well. We have a separate dedicated events page, so you can see from the screenshot there, obviously we're promoting the Festival of Computing for today, and they're listed in date order, but you can filter by region as well. So you can see a couple of the events that are coming up on the screen there. And this is where you book your place, much as you probably did for today. You just book your place and then you'll get your link to the event. And you can actually attend events anywhere that are going on in the country. So we're on social media too. We've got a big presence now on Facebook with 2 Facebook groups. There's a primary community and a secondary community, and many events are posted on there too. But also you can really engage with colleagues and ask questions and find out what's going on relevant to teaching computing. On Twitter, Computing at School is very active, and we have CAS Chat on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. So if you haven't joined us for that, it's quite a fast-paced event, really, every Tuesday, where we pick a topic and we have some questions which we pose, and people get involved in debate and discussion about that particular topic. Really, really good sort of for some educational ideas and thoughts about what's going on. We're also on Instagram too, relatively new to Computing at School, but there's more and more going on there all the time. As we said, Computing at School is part of the NCCE, and it needs to be mentioned really that the NCCE have produced the Teach Computing curriculum, which is free, and you can access a comprehensive resource bank for computing lessons from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4, including a full scheme of work. There is a separate session later on from our computing hubs to be talking about that in a little more detail. That's at 1 o'clock this afternoon. You can also subscribe to Hello World magazine. This is the latest issue that's come out, and you can do that either physically or digitally if you want to save the paper, and that's published by Raspberry Pi with Computing at School and BCS as well, so we contribute to the articles there too. I know that's lots of information. You will get the slides later on. I'll also put some of the contact details in the chat, but here's some of the things that you can do, and if you haven't done already, join Computing at School to get all that access to all that information. Find your nearest CAS community and join it, or more than one. Join our Facebook groups, sign up for online events, have a look at those teaching resources. I'd recommend them on teachcomputing.org. Maybe subscribe to Hello World magazine. And finally, do follow us on social media and interact with us. So our Twitter accounts, both for Southwest and the main Computing at School, are listed at the bottom there. And if you want to get involved with CAS Chat, it's hashtag CAS Chat. Instagram, We have Computing at School, and CAS Southwest has its own account too. Okay, so lots of information, as I said, but do drop me a line if you want to know more, or if you'd be interested in running a CAS community in your area if there's not one close to you locally, and I can support you in delivering those meetings and setting that up and promoting it as well in the Southwest region. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay. So as I say, I'll put some contact details in the chat window, but I think the time has come really to hand you over to the first of our guest speakers, which is Dan Powell from Neon Engineering. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Suzanne. Thanks very much for inviting me along, and good morning, everyone.
Okay.
I just want to spend a bit of time talking to you about the Neon platform. I'm going to share my screen. I've got some slides to share, and then once I've done that, we can just have a quick look at the platform itself. So, sorry, you probably see my cat's tail there. She's decided to join us. You can just go down there, can't you?
Dan, if I just introduce you first of all, just a quick bio before you get started while you set up your slides.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as head of Tomorrow's Engineers, Dan's job is to develop and implement strategic direction. He works with partners to ensure that everything they do works towards the goal of inspiring the next generation of engineers. He's also leading on the development of Neon, an exciting new digital platform, which we're going to hear about today. Before joining Engineering UK, he also worked at the Raspberry Pi Foundation on Code Club. So Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. So I want to talk to you today about the Neon platform. So Neon brings together the UK's best engineering experiences and inspiring careers resources to help teachers bring STEM to life with real-world examples of engineering. Neon started, was one of the outputs from the Perkins Review, which was a big review of STEM engagement and the STEM engagement community a few years ago. And one of the recommendations from that was to have a web platform where teachers can find inspiring, quality-assured activities to use to inspire their students to consider a career in engineering. And I should say here as well, we've got plenty of content on there that's related to computing and tech. So it's not just, one thing we're really keen to do is break down the idea that engineering is just, you know, people that look like me wearing hard hats and high-vis jackets. So we did 18 months of stakeholder meetings and research with some of the providers that we work with. You can see some of our partners there. So we partnered with STEM Learning, with CAS, with Design and Technology Association, with DFE, and the Royal Academy of Engineering to really kind of define what Neon needed to look like. We also spoke to people that provide STEM activities and of course to lots of teachers to kind of get a sense of what they needed from the platform. So we did all that. The other thing that we did was to develop a set of quality standards because we wanted to make sure that everything that went on there was a kind of one-stop shop that was quality assured. So everything on Neon should include positive and contemporary messaging about engineering. It should include an explicit engineering careers dimension and align with 2 of the Gatsby benchmarks. So we know that Gatsby is becoming more important for teachers because it's part of the Ofsted framework. So we're very keen to kind of bake that into it from the start. We wanted to be all of the activities to be designed and delivered to be inclusive for students. And one of the themes at Engineering UK is to increase not just the number, but the diversity of young people that are entering engineering. So that's a really key thing for us. And we want the providers to really be committed to embedding learning and improvement into their experiences. So to measure outputs afterwards, so to do surveying of the participants, to take that learning and then feed that back into the design of the program. And that's really about pushing up the quality of the programs that are on Neon. We use the STEM learning learning outcomes. And so every one of the activities on Neon is linked to a number of those learning outcomes. So you get a really good sense of kind of what those are. And then some nuts and bolts stuff, cost, time to the end user, safeguarding, health and safety, and data safety and data protection. So what's on Neon? So we've got competitions. So an example there would be the Big Bang competition, which is something that we've just relaunched. We've got events, projects, speakers. So the STEM Ambassadors program, which you may know, is on their trips. So where you would go away to somewhere like Thames Water, do a sewage treatment works, which I'm very keen to go on. And that's listed on Neon. And then kind of one-off workshop activity sessions as well. And we've got a really good range across all of these. We're constantly looking to make sure that we've got, a good balance of content and topics on Neon. The other thing that we have on Neon are careers materials. So you may be aware of the Tomorrow's Engineers careers materials that have been around for a number of years. Those are all now hosted on Neon, and you can download copies of those to share with your students. You can also order hard copies when that becomes kind of relevant again. I'm not sure if it's something that people are doing at the moment, but it's certainly something that we will be doing again, I hope. We've also got over 140 case studies, mostly of early career engineers. A lot of those are video case studies as well, so that's something to share with students to give them a bit of inspiration. So one of the things about developing a web platform, which is about getting people to come into school and talk to students, or getting students to go and visit somewhere, is that doesn't particularly work in the middle of a global pandemic. So we decided fairly early on when we were piloting Neon, which was last year. We launched at the end of September last year. Before that, we piloted it with a beta testing group. What we did then was we built very quickly an area where providers could share digital experiences with their teachers. So a lot of the providers that we work with were doing a pivot from face-to-face to digital. So we built an area for that to be shared. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. Just some stats about the launch. So we launched on the 29th of September. We think it's gone really well. We created a landing page for teachers, and the first 500 teachers got a free printed poster. That was proved a very good way to get people to come to the site. But since then, we've carried on building. We've got 890 secondary teachers who are now signed up, 120 primary school teachers. We've had 114 activities listed on Neon. You won't find all of them on there at the moment, because obviously some things come and go and some things stay all the time. But we've got new content coming all the time. And then looking at the Google Analytics, we can see that we've had over 40,000 people visiting the site, which is it's actually more than we thought we would get. So we really feel like we're on track. I think that indicates that we've built a program, built a platform that people find really useful and that they want to come back to and find stuff on. This is some feedback for teachers. I'll let you read this. I'm not going to read through, but generally, very, very positive. The under the spotlight section is something which I'll talk about, and that's part of that we've got a remit to try and encourage or to try and support teachers in booking multiple activities, because we know that's something that really helps to keep young people in the STEM pipeline. But yeah, generally very positive. It wasn't all positive feedback. There was definitely some stuff that we needed to change. And that all came out during the beta testing. We were able to, because we did that, we were able to make some changes before we launched at the end of September. And we've got some more coming up, some more changes coming up soon as well. This is from some of the contributors, just to kind of flag that they're sort of particularly keen on Neon as well. One thing that we're keen to do is to have a community of contributors that kind of talk to each other and share best practice and good ideas, so that they're constantly, it's not just a site where they come, put their stuff up and then go away, that we have a kind of community of practice around it. We're also quite keen to start sharing, or rather start getting some of the providers and some teachers together to talk about what works. So teachers, providers can say, this is what we've got planned. Teachers can feedback on that. And then of course you guys can kind of say to providers, actually, this is what we need, stop doing that, do this. So I talked about some plans that we've got coming up. We want to introduce a quality standard for careers materials and start bringing on more third-party careers materials, and actually the Tomorrow's Engineers materials are much more broad-ranging, and we're keen to bring on sort of things that are more focused. So we would be looking for maybe to people like CAS to put on some material specifically around careers in computing. So that is something that Charlotte, who's our content manager, is leading on at the moment. We're also going to be upgrading the filtering and the mapping tools and allowing providers to set their EDI criteria, and that will feed back into our search. So the improvements to the mapping tool will mean that you'll get more relevant results, because providers will be more able to accurately define where they provide their activity. At the moment, they drop a pin in a map and then draw a circle around it and say we provide in that area. The only problem with that is that not many towns or counties are circular. In fact, none of them are. And so that doesn't, it's a bit of a blunt instrument. So we're kind of upgrading that so that it can be a bit more flexible. Also, if you're teaching in a school that hits a particular number of free school meals or whatever the metrics they're using, the providers want to use, it means that you will see those results, and teachers that aren't in those kind of schools won't see those results. So it'd be much more personalised. One thing we're really keen to do is to support teachers now that students are returning to school. So we want something to be in place by the start of the summer term. We've got a content sprint coming up. We're kicking all that off next week, and that'll be running up over the holidays. So if there's anything that you can suggest that would help us support returning students on Neon, obviously once you've had a look at it, I'd be really interested to hear that. And it doesn't have to happen now. I will put my email in the chat. If people want to email me afterwards, then please do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to get rid of this presentation, and I'm going to get the Neon platform up and start sharing that instead. So sorry, let me just find the share button, which I seem to have forgotten. Here we go. There it is. So you should be able to see Neon now. So this is the landing page. You can see that the first thing that you see is this box where you're asked to put in your school name. And one of the things we wanted to do is to make it really easy to use Neon. And we thought the best way to do that was to focus it around the school that you're teaching in. I'm based in Brighton, down on the south coast. So I'm going to put in the name of my daughter's school. They're both at Varndine School. This polls our database, finds out where Varndine School is, and we do a search based on that. And then you can see that it's already begun to filter. So it will only show the experiences that are relevant to that school. So these are all the in-school experiences that it can deliver. So we've got Thames Water speakers program, STEM enterprise. We can also filter by the type of experience. We can filter by student age. And we're working with industrial cadets, so EDT and BSA Crest Awards. So you can filter by those as well, because some teachers fed back that they'd like to be able to do that, so that if they're working on those programs, they can see experiences that will go towards those. We've also got all of these so the in-school ones are all the ones where people can come to school and deliver, obviously when that's happening again. And the off-site ones, we've got 12 on here at the moment. We're building the content for these. These are arranged by, you can see, by distance from the school. So that this has got everything on it. So this one's in Newcastle, which is not obviously up for a day trip from Brighton, but it's that means the teachers can make that decision. And as we add more content, obviously this list will get longer. Just have a quick look at one of these. So we open it up here. We've got some details here. We don't handle booking on Neon, so you would just click here and you will go to the Thames Water website to do your booking. There's a bit more context and information about the experience, and then these are those learning outcomes. It shows the subjects and topics that it's involved in, and when we do our updates, we're going to start doing filtering by subjects and topic as well. So I hope that will make things a bit easier. These are the Gatsby benchmarks that it hits. And we're working with the Skills Builder partnership to show essential skills. So when we were speaking to teachers, they said that actually the wider skill set is something that's really important, especially when they're talking to maybe senior leadership teams about selling in, about trying to get some funding to go on some of these trips, or to take young people out of school. So yeah, it shows things like listening, teamwork, and problem solving. It shows that more sort of T-shaped idea. And then down here, this one hasn't got one, but actually we're asking teachers to provide testimonials about these so that you can see what other teachers think about them. There's some related experience and careers resources at the bottom. This is the digital experiences area. So this is what I talked about earlier. This is this is getting a lot of traction at the moment. A lot of teachers are using this to share with the young people they're working with who are either homeworking or like from next week when people are starting to go back to school, but we're still quite socially distanced. So we've got 37 experiences on here. Obviously, this is a key thing that we're promoting at the moment, so there's always more content going on here. And then the careers resources, including our Meet the Future U quiz, are on here, and you can place your order for printed copies here. All of these will click them and they will open in their own page. And then finally the case studies. So we've got 140 case studies on here, including quite a lot of video case studies, which I think are really good for sharing, especially at the moment. We're finding a lot of teachers are sharing these with young people so they can get some careers inspiration to them in the home. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is, well, a couple of things actually. Firstly, this is the Under the Spotlight. So this is where we curate some of the experiences. So these turn over every 2 or 3 weeks. And really they are there to kind of help support that idea that booking multiple activities is a good thing, maybe around a theme. So if I open this one, which is virtual encounters with STEM professionals, so you can see there's a bit of context here, and then these 6 experiences are all bundled up into that theme, and then there's some careers information at the bottom as well. So if you sign up for Neon, and we hope that you will, then you can sign up for a weekly email. We send you a very easy to read, takes you 2 minutes to read it, kind of with information about what the new stuff on Neon is. So it will show you what these when we change the Under the Spotlight collections over, then you will see like the more information on those. So just to talk about logging in, so signing up. So you sign up here. It's a very quick process. You just quickly create an account. We will look to build this out more and more as we go. So the main thing at the moment is if you look at one of these, in fact, you know what, I'm just going to log in first. So if I log in as me, like that. So you can see I'm logged in, see these little hearts here. So say I think, oh, Tech Tuesdays looks good, but I haven't got time to think about it now. I want to come back to it a bit later. I think we know that teachers aren't going to be coming to Neon every day or every week. I mean, I would love them to, but I don't think they're going to. You know, maybe once a term when you're doing some planning. So you can just put a little heart on there, and then you can see that's gone up to 3. And if we go to my profile page, you can see here that you've got your favorited experiences and favorite careers resources. I haven't actually got any in here at the moment, but I could add some more. And you can see here's the Thames Sewage Treatment Works store, which I'm actually really keen to go on. So we'll be adding more functionality to this part of the site as time goes on. So that's everything I've got to say about Neon. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and to see if anyone has any questions. If that's okay with you, Suzanne and Sophie, I will, if we can circulate the presentation afterwards, that would be really great. And that's got my contact details, it's got the link to the site, and it's got all our socials on it. So please do take a look and sign up if you can.
Yes, we're uploading all the slides from today to the CAS website at the end of the day.
Excellent, thank you.
Questions, Sophie?
Yeah, thank you for your talk, Dan. There are a couple of questions in the chat. Is there a good balance of free to paid for activity on Neon?
Yes, so it's currently about 50-50. And that's something that we're always looking at. Obviously, we don't want, we realise that teachers, that schools have very limited funds. The other thing to say is that we will soon be launching a bursary scheme. So there will be information on that in the weekly email that we send out when that launches in a few weeks' time. So we hope that will be a support as well. But yeah, absolutely, there is. I think 50-50. I'd like to see more free stuff personally. We are building content all the time, and that is in our plan going forward.
Thank you. And how do teachers sign up for an account on Neon, and why should they sign up?
I think I might have just answered that one, but I'll run through it again. So yeah, if you just go to Neon, up in the top right hand corner, there's a button that you press, and you just very quickly sign up there. And I think, to be honest, the main benefits at the moment are the favoriting, which means that you can kind of come back and remember where you were. And the other thing is the weekly email that's got kind of news about kind of other stuff, the new stuff that you'll find on Neon, just to kind of keep you up to date.
And there's just time for one more quick question. Where are the paid elements on the site?
So if you go, maybe I'll just quickly share my screen again, actually, and then I can just show you how that's surfaced on Neon. So let me just go like that. I think, here we go. So if you look here, you can see at the bottom, it says cost applies, free, cost applies. Cost applies, these are all cost applies, of course. I can't find lots of free ones. So you would see here that this one's free. reason it says cost applies and not free is because for some of these, like I'm pretty sure that for Go for Set, it is free if you hit certain criteria, but actually a cost may well apply for it. And also the costs are often flexible, given, depending on kind of where you're based and where the provider's based. Apart from that, there's no other cost. So there's no cost to join. There's no cost for providers to upload content. So we're not using it in any way to kind of monetize what we do or what providers do.
Thank you very much, Dan. There's loads of information there. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in terms of questions.
That's fine.
For this session. If we do have time at the end, obviously we can come back to them. But thank you very much.
Thanks,
we're going to hand over to Anne-Marie next. Anne-Marie works at the National Museum of Computing. And just while she's setting up, I'll just give you a quick bio of her. She's worked in the museums and heritage sector for around 20 years. The roles have encompassed learning with schools, families, and community groups in a wide range of settings. Historic houses, multidisciplinary museums, industrial heritage sites, and archives. She recently created a remote learning programme for the National Museum of Computing. So without further ado, we'll hand over to Anne-Marie. I know who's got lots of wonderful things to share with us today. Anne-Marie, over to you. Anne-Marie, we can't hear you at the moment. Thank you.
Hello, sorry about that. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to be sharing our remote learning offer with you. This is something that we were planning to do before coronavirus happened. But because I spend a lot of time delivering sessions, it was something that we were expecting to deliver over the next sort of 2 or 3 years. But because of the change in circumstances, it's something that we've been able to deliver a lot quicker. And thank you for your patience with me. Usually I would be presenting from our remote learning studio. So we have a dedicated suite in the museum for remote learning. But as probably many of you are, I'm homeschooling, doing childcare and what have you. So I'm presenting at home. So the setup's slightly different. We usually use a streaming service called OBS Studio so that everything goes through the camera. So it makes things seem a lot more fluid rather than using the share screen function. And the other reason why we do this is because it enables us to use the school's own video conferencing software. So whether you are Zoom, Teams or a Google Meet, we would use your links, which is great because it means you're using a platform that you're familiar with, but also it's great in terms of safeguarding because it means you have control of the settings. So without further ado, I thought I'd explain a little bit how it all works. So the remote learning offer is 2 themed sessions. World War II code breaking machines and modern electronic computing. And those sessions break down into a guided tour using a 360-degree model of the museum, which I will show you in a minute, and a hands-on activity, which again, I will also show you. And the idea was to mirror what we have on offer for students in the museum. So obviously we can't completely recreate it, but what we can do is kind of mirror it as nearly as possible. So that was the aim. So this is our 360-degree model of the museum. Starting at the bomb, we have the world's only working replica of the Turing Welshman bomb. And an Enigma machine, and we will literally walk you around the museum. And the really nice thing about this model as well is that we can take you behind the barrier, which is something that we're not able to do if you were to come in real life. So in this space, we talked to the student about the achievements of the code breakers at Bletchley Park and how they did it, so how Enigma worked, and then how the mathematicians and code breakers used this glorious piece of kit to do the almost impossible feat of hacking into the Enigma cipher. And we can also connect to videos as well, so we can show you video footage of the machines in action. And that's really important because as a museum, we pride ourselves on the fact that our our exhibits work in as well as they can do when you're dealing with historic machines. So I'll just take you into the Tully Gallery, where we have a lesser known set of code breaking machines. So Enigma's really, really famous, but we have the Tully machine and Heath Robinson, and this was used to hack code sent by this machine here, the Lorenz SZ42. And here we talk to the students about how Boolean logic is used, so it brings that subject to life. We talk about Vernam cipher, so how the ciphers were used to kind of change the messages and what have you. We talk about, you know, how computing sort of becomes necessary for dealing with these big data questions, you know, how you have the Lorenz machine, which has like beyond millions, like factors, orders of magnitude, possible combinations, and how you needed to automate all of that to make it possible to hack into the cipher. So we talk about how these machines are used. And so this is our 360-degree model of the museum. So I can literally walk you around the museum as if we were there, you know, so you see like side corridors. We also have a doll's house function, which allows us to zoom into and out of different galleries. We've been doing this for a little while now with various schools, and they love these models, and the students love being able to see these models, the museum sort of on the screen and move around it in this nice fluid way. So this is Colossus. This is the world's first digital electronic computer. And this is created to hack that Lorenz cipher. So we talk about how this works, etc., etc. And then we go into look at modern electronic computing. So after each gallery, we then we have a brief quiz just to make sure that everyone's still awake, because one of the challenges I'm sure teachers are aware of is that getting feedback from your students can be quite hard. You feel a bit like you're teaching into the void. So can you all see that okay? I forgot to check. Can you all see what I'm sharing on my
yes, we can see it fine, thank you.
Lovely. So some of you will be familiar with the Socrative platform. So after each gallery, we just ask the students 5 questions, and they absolutely love this. And then it's all live. When Socrative's playing ball, we can see the students submitting their answers, and we can feed back in real time, and that's a really lovely thing. So that's all great. And then just put this here. If I go back to the model, right, I'm back. So we'll just go down the corridor again, or I might use Doll's House actually to take me to our first generation machine. So here we talk about the principles of computing. We talk about, these are the first Turing complete von Neumann architecture machines. So we talk to the students about von Neumann architecture, we talked about memory, we talked about processing. By 1951, there were 14 working electronic computers in the entire world. And in this room, we have 3 of those machines. We have EDSAC, responsible for 3 Nobel Prizes. We have the HEC, and we have the WITCH. And this is the world's oldest working electronic computer. And the really great thing about using this machine with teachers is that we can literally demonstrate the fetch, decode, execute cycle on this machine. You can actually see it happening. Obviously microchips are tiny, so you can't see it happening, but here we have the random access memory here, we have accumulators and decoders and all sorts of things, and we have the program. We actually have a video that we show, and we can show students that happening. So from there, we go on to look at transistorized machines in the Large Systems Gallery. So we talk about the rapid development of computing by looking at these machines. We start with the Elliott 803, which is an enormous beastie hulk of a machine. And it's just there. Here we are in and amongst the Elliott 803. And then we talk about how in the space of just 5 years, we go from a computer that's the size of a room to a computer that's the size of the desk by comparing and contrasting with the Elliott 903. And we talk about how in the 60s, 70s and early 80s, computing was very much team sport. It was used by banking. It was used in air traffic control, road control, radars, all of those sorts of things. But you have these massive machines, you know, looking like washing machines. So all of these machines here, they're all part of one computer and they have their monitors there. So people kind of work together and they were used in big businesses for, you know, really big and important jobs because they were so expensive. And then from there, we go on to the PC gallery, which is here. And we talk about how computers come into our lives. Here's the game section. And that's the ceiling. I'll just whiz around so that you're not staring at the ceiling. And you know, so we talk about how computers come into our lives and our homes. So we talk about the DEC PDP-8 being the first mass-produced personal computer, but it still looks a lot like the Elliott 903, so it's lacking some of the functionality that we just expect. And then, you know, we talk about these other machines that are key in the development of personal computing, talk about the Apple II and killer apps. We talk about the Apple Lisa and GUIs. We talk about the Nextcube and the development of the internet, and we use the IBM to talk about standards. And then we go on and we talk about, there's Hedy Lamar, who's a radio frequency switching protocols used for Wi-Fi. And we have portable machines. We talk about the evolution of portable machines as well. So that is part of the modern electronic guided tour. So that there are the two sections. We then have the interactive sessions. So we talk about, when we talk about World War II code-breaking machines, we are very kindly sponsored by CoSpaces, 3D environment, so students connect to us through this and we can connect to them as well. So we have our teacher login and students do this. Now we designed this and the idea was that students would recreate Block H. Block H is where the museum is now, as it would have looked in World War II with 10 Colossus machines and Wrens and engineers running about. But what tends to happen in practice is the students just have a field day adding different elements and programming them. And as my view is, as long as they're kind of programming and engaging with the content, it doesn't really matter, and students do whatever they get the most out of. So if we have students that are very task orientated, they will follow the lesson. But by and large, what students do is they'll see how many ducks they can fit in, and then they'll play with the gravity, they'll get the ducks moving around, they'll do all sorts of things. And it's just great for their creativity, and there are programmable elements. I can't see it because my participant box is just over there, but there is a code box, so you click on the code box and use it. Some of you might already be familiar with CoSpaces, you might have used it or have seen it already, but we have a sponsorship, so when you come visit us, you get a free 30-day trial, which enables you to continue to use the content long after your museum visit's been and done. The other hands-on activity then, so this is great for Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 students. If you have higher level students that are really into their code breaking and their cryptography, we do, it's quite hard to see because the control bar's over it. I'll just move that out of the way. We have an activity where we talk about how the code breakers hack the Lorenz cipher using code key extraction. And so we have a bit of a talk about how they did that, and they do some activities. And then we have a Python program, which we can share with your students. And the idea is that the students can see how you might automate that process using a modern program. And we use that in the session. And then the students can use that, and they can hack it, move it, and do whatever they want with it. So those are the activities associated with code breaking machines. And then when it comes to modern electronic computing, a big part of our offer at the National Museum of Computing is being able to use working BBC machines. So we have a whole suite in the museum of working vintage BBC micros. And so we wanted to kind of bring that to our virtual offer. So we use these BBC emulators, which are online, and you can literally code. So I'll just show you the code. I've just done a little bit of coding on there. And you can actually run the program and see action. So that's really great. So we have different levels. We have beginner session, which is like BBC 101. So starting from just a very simple program like print hello world over and over like I've done, to sorting and matching activities all the way down. And then for GCSE and A-level students, you can either create a game of Snake or you can do a rocket trajectory. So that, in a nutshell, is our remote learning offer.